Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. Guys, before we get into the video of the day, there's two open positions on the Pitt staff, now down to one. Pat Narduzzi hires Tim Daoust from Eastern Carolina, the defensive ends, outside linebackers, and special teams coordinator. We're going to go into a little bit of that, my thoughts on the hire. Who could we potentially see for the wide receivers position coach? A young guy, a veteran guy, somewhere in between. We'll be able to go over that. But also, too, spring practice is just around the corner. And, man, for a team that went 3-9 last year with the additions through the portal, there are plenty of competition going around. But more importantly, the talent on this roster is evident from a coach from the ACC who told me the same thing. But also, too, the Big Ten, who was originally in the ACC, now in the Big Ten, talked to me about how much talent Pitt truly has if it's utilized. So we'll go into all that. But before we get started, subscribe to the channel. If you are not on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, go over to YouTube and subscribe for us. We're going to have a giveaway to 1,000. We need less than 100 subscribers. Share this video with your friends right now. After the video, go back and look at it. In the comment section, give me your thoughts. But please subscribe to the video down below. Subscribe to the channel. We've got more content coming out. I actually have a video coming out later tonight about the future of the ACC, things we found out about this week. You'll get more of those thoughts as the week goes on. But please subscribe to the channel and like the video right now. So again, guys, of course, you already know. The show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, you have the fake slide Pilsner, which supports the players at the University of Pittsburgh, but also to Alliance 412, which is a preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. But also, too, you've got seltzers. This is a platinum seltzer citrus, almost 8% alcohol. So we're only going to have one of those because I'm in banking, guys, as well. We're off tomorrow, so we can have a drink tonight. Also, too, don't worry. If you know supplements, I got First Form here. I got my protein shake from working out earlier today. So that's always important. If you don't work out, you should. It's good for you. But Colonial Beer, run by two great Pitt men who I know personally. We're still working together on doing a live show at Colonial Beer, guys. And we're actually working on getting some players to attend this. Guys that I know personally on the team. We'll do a little bit of something with NIL. Obviously, I got to work with them because it's a beer distributor. Obviously, they have to be 21. What does it have to look like? That kind of nature. What does that go into? But we'd like to have a live show with current players and some past players. Love to get you guys there because, one, we got to do a get-together somehow. And whether it's at a show, a live show, or we do something at a restaurant, I'm truly appreciative of everything that you guys do to support the channel, sharing the channel, subscribing. The show is nothing without you guys, and I would like to show you guys a little appreciation and getting together and to meet you. But more importantly, hearing your stories one-on-one, because I really do enjoy that kind of stuff. The NIL event was another one, having you guys just come up, walk up to me, have a conversation, take pictures. It was cool. Just be able to hear your guys' story about why you're a Pitt fan, why you listen to the show, what do you want out of Pitt football. All that stuff works hand in hand. But that is all due to Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Again, the fake slide Pilsner is there, which helps supports the players at the University of Pittsburgh, but also, too, supports Alliance 412, which is the preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. And, of course, Alliance 412 has done a great job with Pitt football, Pitt basketball. Pitt basketball's on a run, climbing the net rankings, what that looks like. Really appreciative of what Alliance 412 does. But more importantly, if you are a subscriber of Alliance 412, make sure you send me something on Twitter letting me know. I'd like to give you a shout out because, one, it's a major factor in what college football is to now, and especially to college basketball. It's crucial that we all jump on board with Alliance 412. So if you are a part of them, please give me a shout out on Twitter. I'll retweet you. And more importantly, just give you your flowers, show you some love because it's true what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. But let's go into a couple comments here. I know we've already got a couple. I want to shout out Wolf HD and Adam Vasitic. I really appreciate that. You guys already in the comments section. It's already getting lively there. So really appreciative of you guys already commenting already. And Wolf HD, I know you had the first comment in. Wanted to give you that highlight. There's a question you have in there, and I'm going to answer that explicitly, because I think a lot of people have it messed up in terms of what the competition looks like. Is there already a starter? Is a competition? We're going to go over that tonight. But the first thing I want to go over tonight, Pitt hires Eastern Carolina's defensive line coach, offense outside linebackers coach, and special teams coordinator, Tim Daoust. Guys, when you look at a guy like this, there are numerous thoughts that I have here. Okay, if I can just spell this correctly. There we go. Tim Daoust. Okay, so I waited a couple days to get the initial reaction, and I got to admit, the first really day or two, I wasn't really fond of the hire. I was a little disappointed, to be quite frank with you. It took me a couple days because I wanted to talk to some coaches around the country, whether it was the ACC, the Big Ten, obviously in the group of five. Eastern Carolina was able to reach out to some players down there. One thing is very certain. He is a beloved coach, especially with Eastern Carolina. Tim Daoust is well known as a player's coach, a guy that's been around for over 21 years. People that don't know, Tim worked as a graduate assistant at Northern Illinois with Pat Narduzzi, while Pat Narduzzi was the defensive coordinator there, but also, too, while he was the defensive coordinator at the University of Cincinnati with which legendary coach Mark D'Antonio, as you guys remember. This is a guy that has a lot of experience, but in my mind, we were all going to be disappointed regardless, because you go from Charlie Partridge, who is the best defensive line coach in the country, to a guy that has experience, has developed some players, but not to the esteem of Charlie Partridge. I think if you know Charlie Partridge, and I think you can guess or kind of figure out that Charlie's going to be a guy that's going to be around the program for a long time. He might not be in the capacity that he is now, but I guarantee you, if those players want to reach out to Charlie, they have a question, but more importantly, if Tim has a question, I'm pretty sure that Charlie will pick up the phone. More importantly, have text messages with them, have those conversations. He's a Pitt man through thick and thin. That's one thing's for sure. But when it comes to Tim, at first, again, guys, I wasn't, it's a safe hire in my opinion. It's not a splash. It's nothing that's going to set the world on fire. It's a good position in terms of, a guy that Pat Narduzzi knows. And I reached out to a couple coaches from around the ACC just to get their thoughts. What was their thought on the hire? Are they pumped up because it's not Charlie Partridge, or is it, are they worried because hey, he's a great coach and good recruiter? What does that look like? And I reached out and I wrote it down here in a couple notes here. One ACC coach told me this: JJ, trust Pat Narduzzi when it comes to hiring defensive coaches. Pat's been around, obviously, as you know, for a long period of time. He is someone who knows the coaches that will succeed in his system, but more importantly, will recruit the right players to the University of Pittsburgh. That was one. Trust Pat Narduzzi. And when I was kind of, that was the first response. And the first response really walks me off the ledge a little bit, because I was, a little frustrated. Wanted a splash hire, especially too with what the market is for defensive line coaches. And I know a lot of the coaches that were interested in this job, there were some damn good ones, to say the least. But I do agree with him to an extent. You got to give Pat Narduzzi, some leeway on this, because one, while it may not be a splash hire to us, and we may not be all hyped up because it's from Charlie Partridge now to a guy that's been around, but never to the point where Charlie Partridge was, we were going to be disappointed regardless, because you're going from the best defensive line coach to the next guy, follow up to the next guy. And, one of the biggest stops for Tim Daoust was the university, obviously Syracuse University. He was there from 2011 to 2015. If you remember Scott Schaefer was the head coach at Syracuse at the time when Pat Narduzzi was hired in 2015. Pat interviewed Tim when that position opened for the defensive coordinator position. When he was looking for a defensive coordinator in 2015, Tim's name came up. Now, obviously, Tim refuted that claim with the Syracuse press. I can assure you from multiple people, Pat did reach out, and Pat actually confirmed that through multiple other interviews he did that year. But Tim was, when you look at Tim, he was at Syracuse. He worked his way up to assistant head coach, like what Charlie Partridge was, a guy who developed 2 NFL defensive linemen that were currently there at Syracuse. As you well know, Scott Schaefer and Pat Narduzzi are great friends. Obviously, they know Tim Daoust, not wanting to take him away from Syracuse, and Scott Schaefer. I think the other factor in that situation was, when you look at Tim, he worked his way up. He was able to produce. He was able to recruit. Another coach told me, when you look at Syracuse, obviously Fran Brown going there, it's his first year. Everyone always has hype in their first year. He goes, we'll judge in year 2 or year 3 what this looks like. But it's, Syracuse is a tough place to recruit. If you've been to Syracuse, and some of you probably have, it's not exactly a desirable location. It certainly snows there quite a bit. It's certainly cold. Upstate New York, not exactly the most, wild destination place in the world. It's hard to recruit there. So he has recruited in some places where he's been the defensive coordinator at Ball State. He's been an assistant head coach, defensive line coach, special teams coordinator. At Eastern Carolina. He has made his rounds. He's had 2 stints at Western Michigan. He's produced some guys there that got drafted in the later rounds. You got to trust Pat Narduzzi in this route. And if this was like a offensive coordinator hire to where it was just like a blah, then I'm more critical of it and saying, hey, what the hell are we doing? But I think what Pat's done this round is, hey, there's a guy that I know that can really produce in a certain manner to the point where we want to continually stop the run, but also to tackles for losses and sacks. And what I thought was really interesting here is that during Daoust at Eastern Carolina, in my notes here, the Pirates rose in defensive rankings and tackles for loss, rising to as high as 17th in tackles for loss and the FBS. 17th. Guys, I mean, he's at Eastern Carolina. He's not at Pitt. He's not at Alabama. He's not at Georgia. I mean, if you're able to produce at that high of a level, it's pretty good. Obviously, while he's at Syracuse, he coached the 2 highly touted prospects, including Chandler Jones, who was taken in the first round by the New England Patriots in 2012, and Jay Bromley, who was taken by the Giants in 2013. So he's got experience to where he's coached players and he's developed players. I just think, and you were able to do that at Syracuse. It's not a high echelon football program. I'm excited to see what Fran Brown does because Fran Brown is a hell of a coach. He's from that area. I'm excited to see what they do. They certainly have a lot of hype for this year, but I think it takes more than an offseason to build a team, especially in college football. I think we saw that with Colorado. But I'm excited to see what he does because it takes a lot of stress off of him. But Pat Narduzzi knows him. Pat Narduzzi has trust in him. And I think that even though, again, while we are maybe not exactly ecstatic and we have questions, which we certainly do, give the guys flowers. Give the guy his opportunity to go in there and coach. He has developed guys that have gone in the NFL, a first rounder. He's done it. He's not been to the bigger echelon schools. He's been at certain places, probably where he has great relationships at. But the fact that, when you look at this, if I went back to 2015 or 2017, when the defensive line coach position was open, it was down to Charlie Partridge and Tim Daoust. We picked Charlie Partridge, and the rest is history. Obviously, Charlie was, well-renowned, decided that, obviously Brett Bielema got fired at Arkansas. Charlie was on the market, and he came back to Pitt for a second stint. But if you look at 2017, you look at 2015, this was a guy that was high up on the marks. This was a guy that people really liked because he was able to develop. He was able to recruit certain areas. He has recommendations and recruits and a lot of connections in Florida as well. When you go up to, especially he's got a lot of guys in Ohio, especially coming towards the East Coast, as I've been told. So again, it's not a splash hire, but you got to give a guy his dues. You got to let him, work in first. And I think that, he's already been on campus. The players, from what I heard, they already like him. And again, I talked to, Eastern Carolina players. They love him. He's a guy that was a well-beloved coach. He's a very much players coach. He's almost like a mini Narduzzi is what they were calling him. He's just a high-level guy. He's a football guy, loves to coach football, really does care about his players. So you've met the criteria that the first thing you look at is, what kind of person he's a great person, great individual, great character. So automatically that's a home run right there. The coaching aspect and the recruiting aspect is on a TBD. We're going to judge on the basis of, hey, who does he bring in? Who do we recruit? Does recruiting go up or down? That kind of stuff. We'll probably sit here next February, next January, and we'll have a conversation. Because after the first signing period in December, we'll be able to take a look and say, hey, here's who we have. it'll be interesting to see in terms of the defensive line room. I think the room's solidified for the majority. We'll see if we lose a freshman, maybe one freshman that goes on because it depended upon because they were connected to Charlie Partridge. We'll see what that looks like. There could be some waivers there. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, the spring will really tell us the most of who's involved and who's not. So we'll be involved in that. But give this guy his dues. He has been at certain places. He has gone to certain points where he has done well. Maybe not to the level, obviously, of Charlie Partridge, but we'll continue to judge. For us, we have questions, but you got to give Pat Narduzzi his flowers because he has hired the right guys. Archie Collins, Corey Sanders, Randy Bates, Ryan Manilak, guys like that who have been here Charlie Partridge, he hired Charlie. He's done a great job. Ryan Manilak's done a great job, a young football coach. Tim Daoust is, if I'm not mistaken, in his early 40s. He's a young coach. You want guys that potentially have some loyalty, but more importantly, can stick around, but also to develop that room. And that's kind of what he was looking for. So we'll continue to judge and we'll continue to monitor what that looks like. But you got to give the guy a chance first. You cannot like the hire. I agree with that. But you got to give him a chance and support him. All right, let's go to the comments section here. Let's see here. Wolf, I'm going to get you your comment here. I just want to hit a couple of these first. What is Tim's recruiting area? He'll be in charge. Again, he'll help out with a number of guys, Ohio, along the East Coast, but he does a lot of stuff in Florida as well. He's going to be involved in Florida, Ohio, PA, coming down maybe a little bit farther than a little bit Virginia, and then really dive into what he does in Florida. So he'll be involved there. What's Tim's strengths in developing defensive line? His strength, if you look at developing on the defensive line, it's just players in general. You look at Chandler Jones. Obviously, he was a defensive lineman, went first round to the New England Patriots. Obviously, a great football player in college. He's a guy that, again, agility, hand movement, violent hands. Tim Daoust is a big guy on that. Obviously, that's a mirror image of what Pat Narduzzi loves to do. If you remember Charlie Partridge, talked about violent hands, technique. Those are the things that really fill into what you want in a Narduzzi defense and a coach. He follows that same exact suit. It's violent hands, technique down to the T. And this is a system that we run. Tim Daoust obviously knows Pat Narduzzi's system as well. That's another plus. Charlie really knew his system as well from outside, knew exactly what he liked. But Tim Daoust, who has coached with Pat Narduzzi, is another one that knows his system, what he wants done. He's going to be able to do that. So we'll continue to monitor that. Which NFL players has Coach Daoust played a role in developing? From those two I mentioned there, the two off the top of the head that I wrote down here are Chandler Jones, who was taken in the first round by New England in 2012, and Jake Bromley, who was taken by the Giants in 2013, the next following year. So he was able to put together solid recruiting classes in those two and develop guys. So he was able to do that. And again, it's at Syracuse. You always have questions about that. What's Tim's strength in recruiting defensive line? Have you heard Pitt players have taken the hire? I know a lot came from Coach P specifically. Stu, from what I've heard, is that they like him. They like him a lot. So we'll see. And I think that, you hear that he likes him. You hear what he likes to say. We'll continue to monitor what that looks like. I think potentially we'll see what the freshmen do. That's probably where I have a little bit of a question mark. Do we potentially lose a guy? Or we'll see. I have not heard anything in that term of people or anybody that could be leaving. We got early enrollees, guys that are already here. They will go through spring ball. Obviously, Carter Johnson, through miscommunication or whatever it was, obviously hit the portal. Wasn't enough room for him. I think Pitt needs to lose 7 guys or 8 guys from the current roster who don't make the 2 deep. That's crucial to what they do. I think it's important that they need to lose guys because, one, you need to get to the 85 scholarship limit. There'll be guys that leave. But I'm going to be monitoring, for me, I think the defensive line room is solidified. But the question mark that I have is the freshman defensive linemen who were truly recruited by Charlie Partridge, young guys who maybe had other options that chose Pitt or flipped to Pitt because of Charlie Partridge. That'll be something to monitor as the spring ball goes on. But that's up to Tim. That's up to Tim Daoust to create those relationships as he comes in. And from anything that I've heard from the ECU guys, he's a player's coach. So I give him the benefit of the doubt in that mark. Wide receiver coach, we'll go over a little bit of that. Disappointed by the hire, but said to myself, Narduzzi really knows defense, so I will roll with it. Yeah, Stefan, I agree. When I first saw it, I was not happy because to me, it's a major step down. But anybody's a major step down from Charlie Partridge. I mean, we weren't going to go to Georgia and get a Georgia defensive line coach to leave there and then come to Pitt. You saw Brian McClendon, who turned, who really kind of, walked away from Pitt, but now he's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. I was told that's kind of why he did, why he pulled himself back out of that, because when he knew he was going to go to the NFL, the opportunity was there. But again, I agree with you. Disappointed by the hire right away, but you got to trust Pat Narduzzi. He knows defensive coaches. He's been around, and one of the comments I do love is that he talked about on NIL Day, National Letter of Intent Day. He said, "Look, we've had good off the defensive linemen here, because of Charlie Partridge." But he goes, we did pretty damn well at Michigan State too, and we had different defensive line coaches there. So that's a very good point. So I think that a lot of these guys need to watch and just see, hey, here's what he does here at the University of Pittsburgh. Here's how he recruits, because he knows certain guys, and he knows he's comfortable with certain guys that are here, especially in this system. And he knows Pat Narduzzi's system. That's number one. So you're able to sell very easily on what you're able to do. And guess what? I can guarantee you he's going to be selling the last, 5 years, where Pitt's been in the top two almost every single year in terms of sacks, tackles for loss. That kind of stuff goes hand in hand with each other. So we'll continue to monitor that. Wolf HD, any thoughts on Bell starting Yarnell is the starter? Open competition, or just Veyer and Holstein fighting for QB2? I want Holstein to have a legit shot at QB1, has ACC championship upside. Wolf, this is a great question, and a couple people actually reached out to me about this and asked me this question. So he named him the starting quarterback going into spring. What that means is that Yarnell was the last guy to play. He played the best out of the current guys on the roster. Eli Holstein comes in from Alabama. Obviously, what he was able to do in terms of practice reps and his tape, and, for practice tape looked incredible. I mean, his deep ball touch, he's got a strong arm, very athletic, has a 4.5 40, a guy that, that can move that quick, great arm, great instincts against the number one defense in the nation, against Alabama. Practice every single day. That says a lot. But what I want people to understand is that he was correct in saying, look, it's going to be a competition. He comes in as a quarterback number one because he was there last year and he played the best. Now, it's going to be a competition. He said he's going in as the QB1. You got to name someone QB1 in terms of taking first team reps. But I can tell you this: people better watch out for Eli Holstein. We'll see what Julian Duggar does when he comes in. He's another guy that's going to be a wild card. People don't know this, but Cade Bell is actually left-handed. So is Julian Duggar. So that's a great for development for Julian Duggar. And I've said before, he's going to be a guy that certainly fits the system of what Pitt wants to do, and it's certainly Cade Bell's offense. So he's another guy to watch out for. But I can tell you from the things that I've seen in terms of the practice tape, what he's been able to do, his high school tape, Eli Holstein's for real. There's a reason why Alabama didn't want to lose him. They wanted to try to bring him back. And then obviously now they lost Eli Holstein. They lost Jalen Milrose. There's numerous guys going to the portal from Alabama. But when you look at this from a different perspective, guys, it's going to be a quarterback competition from hands down. It's going to be across the board. And especially, too, they're all coming at the same level. You're learning a completely new offense. That's the thing. And I think Cade Bell, when you go back and look at his offense, and I posted some clips from the Georgia Tech game, he's aggressive. Heck, they're on the 1 yard line. It's second down. Obviously, there's, even the announcers were saying, you might as well just run the football here because you don't worry about a holding call, anything like that. I called it a good call because it's aggressive. How many times this past year from Frank Signetti did we see a run at the 1 yard line? We could barely get it out, or how conservative it was. I'm good with an offensive coordinator going on the offensive, being aggressive. That's why they're there, and I like that about Cade Bell. But also, too, when you look at his system in terms of spreading out the defense, putting certain playmakers in a position to make plays, mismatches. You look at Gavin Bartholomew, what he's going to be able to do as a tight end, whether he's on the line of scrimmage or he's off, he's in a trip set, if he's in a bunch set, you could do a lot of things. That's why I really like Cade Bell's offense. He's a young mind, much more creative than what we've seen in the past. Obviously, I think Mark Whipple was pretty creative. Mark Whipple got to his third year. He finally produced. The first 2 years were obviously a struggle to watch. The run game was horrendous. The pass game was good and bad at times. We couldn't score in the red zone. And in 2021, they really put it together because Mark Whipple was able to be creative. And again, was very much in terms of aggressive. Heck, we had numerous fourth down and ones, and you saw Kenny Pickett throw it up to Jordan Addison in the end zone. First round pick. But again, that team had a lot of talent. We'll continue to see what this team does. I think this team has a lot of talent. I think Eli Holstein is for real. I think Nate Yarnell is a guy that's for real. I mean, especially in that dog, don't want to be too mean about it, but I mean, the offense with Frank Signetti was horrendous and lacked adjustments, to say the least. I mean, how many times I jumped on here and just talked about how bad, the offense was with Frank Signetti, and just the lack of adjustments was just dumbfounding, to say the least. So, Wolf, to answer your question, it is completely 110% an open quarterback competition, but Nate Yarnell will go in as the guy getting the first team reps right away, but then they'll be able to split with some guys that are in there. They're already doing stuff in the indoor facility now. Those coaches are watching. As we get closer and closer to spring practice, you'll be able to see what those guys are able to do. But it's guaranteed. It's an open competition. They're going to watch guys, and there'll be certain guys that get quarterback one, reps. They'll be able to split the reps. But one guy who for certain will get the quarterback reps, number one, at least some of them, is Nate Yarnell. But again, my wild card from the beginning was Eli Holstein being the starter by week 1. That's just my opinion. I think the guy's got a lot of talent. I think the guy is just that good. He's got a year of experience in college, especially too against the Alabama defense. I've seen the practice tape. The guy's for real. Just my opinion. So that rolls into my next question here. Spring camp and competition. Spring camp right around the corner. Obviously starts, at the end of February, beginning of March. I got to check those original dates. I don't think those dates have officially come out yet, but that's usually when it starts. So usually about in a couple weeks. But when you look at Pitt from a perspective of talent-wise, and I see a couple more comments coming in on the spring practice stuff. We'll get to that. When you look at the competitions around the board, you got the offensive line. We've got guys that came in from the transfer portal. I expect another offensive lineman to come into the portal after the portal opens back up after spring ball. I expect us to go after one more. One of them's Clem, the offensive lineman from Washington. He's a Pine Richland kid, Adrian Clem. Obviously, coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, went to the University of Oregon after his time here, but went to Pine Richland. I guarantee Pitt will make a call there if they haven't already made a call. That'll be one to watch for. But offensive line, tight end, obviously, Gavin Bartholomew is going to be your guy moving forward. That's your number one guy. Jake Overman's there. Jake Renda's there. I think that one of the interesting comments was from Cade Bell, but also, too, Jacob Bronowski, the new tight ends and special teams coordinator. Talked about how Jake Renda's in there every day, and he's got note cards. Guys got note cards in there talking about the offense and memorizing the offense and getting to certain places. And he talked about his athletic ability. So when you look at the tight end room, it's Gavin Bartholomew, Jake Overman, and Jake Renda. Those are your three guys, and you still got Cole Mitchell there. You got a couple other guys back there, so we'll watch that room. But we know who that number one is on the tight end wise. When you look at the wide receiver room, you've got guys we brought in: Sensory Lee, Raphael Poppy Williams. Those two guys come into the wide receiver room to an already, I think, good room. I think Kanate Mumfield, Kenny Johnson, Dejon Reynolds. I think Kenny Johnson is really your future, the guy that's going to really, I think, one of the big guys going to have a breakout year. I think he's got so much athletic ability. He fits this offense to a T. They're going to take deep shots. They want guys that can beat coverage, especially press coverage. Kenny Johnson can do that. He runs incredible routes. A bigger wide receiver, has great speed, great leverage. Love his hands being violent in terms of getting off the press coverage. I just think that Kenny's going to have a hell of a year, and that's why I think that he's probably going to see this offense and what they're working at already, and he's going to already notice, hey, I got a legitimate shot to put up some serious numbers in this offense. But he's going to be a guy that's going to be a focal point. He's going to be a guy that's going to be one of the main guys around the football. But Kanate Mumfield, Dejon Reynolds, I think Kanate Mumfield is a tremendous route runner. Reminds me of his route running a lot like a Tyler Boyd, just really crisp. You know what you're going to get out of him, a very athletic, very good wide receiver. I think he'll get more looks this year with better quarterback play and a better system. I think he's going to put up some really big numbers this year. Dejon Reynolds, a guy that I think that can really catch the ball in traffic. I've said that for even last year, going into this year. I love what he's able to do as a guy. He's a possession receiver, a guy who just doesn't matter where he's at, he'll be able to catch the football. And it's going to be good to see what Raphael Williams and Sensory Lee are able to do. Does that speed that they have, does that level of concept in terms of running routes, knowing Cade Bell's offense, does that help them push over the top against maybe one or two more guys? What are they able to do? Does that translate from the FCS to the FBS? Those are a lot of questions that we have, but there's certainly a lot of competition there. It's going to bring out the best in that room. You look at the running back room. In the running back room, they brought in Desmond Reed from Western Carolina. You saw the tape that I put on from Georgia Tech. The guy's involved in so many plays out of the backfield, whether it's passing on third down or draw plays or just straight up going out of the shotgun or out of the pistol. He's a great running back in terms of, I think he brings a lot. It reminds me a lot of, I'm drawing a blank on his name, the running back from Cincinnati last year. Short in stature, but a guy built like a fire hydrant. I mean, I think the guy is going to be really, really good for Pitt. I think he's going to do a really good job here. He runs hard, loves to be physical, is not scared of contact. You love to see that kind of stuff through running backs. But obviously, you have Rodney Hammond, which is going to be your running back number one going into this year. You still got Derek Davis. Derek Davis, obviously out of Gateway, and also transfer out of LSU. He's, again, a big back speed. He's got well-known speed. I can't wait to see what he does this year with Lindsey Lamar as the new running back coach. Lindsey Lamar, a younger guy, but, hey, he played running back at USF in the old Big East days. He's a guy, he's just a tough runner, has certainly coached the running back position, an offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach. The guy can do it. The guy can coach all. So I'm happy with him being on board. I'm excited to see that room. But we'll go into more in terms of what we're able to look at on the defense. But overall offense, you look at just the overall talent and depth of what Pitt has. I think it was just a matter of time of looking for the right system, but more importantly, upgrading coaching. I think that's what we got this year, especially too with younger guys, more energetic and more demanding coaches is what we'll see this year. A couple questions here. Jake Stark, any of our existing QBs a bad fit for Bell's offense? The answer to that is no. I don't see anybody that's a bad fit because when you look at all the quarterbacks on the roster, they are athletes. It's not like I would say a guy that would be bad for a system, to give you an idea, would be like a Max Brown. A guy like a Max Brown he's more of like a built in stature. He's your 1990 to early 2000s, mid 2000s quarterback, to where he's at 6'5". He sits in the pocket. You give him a pocket. He makes the read and delivers, and he's able to throw for a ton of yards. But in this stage of the game in college football, and it's college football, not the NFL, you got to be able to be mobile. You got to be able to move. Max Brown would not be good in this offense, I think, because he couldn't move at all. He lacked the ability to move. So I think he would be a bad fit. When you look at overall what Pitt has here, these guys are all able to move. Julian Duggar, Eli Holstein, Christian Veyer, Nate Yarnell, they've all shown to be able to move and be very, their agility purposes wise, are looking very good. They've proven it. I just think that each quarterback has something to work on. I think, Nate Yarnell, continue to make sure you deliver great passes. He's done a good job with that. Continue to be consistent. Obviously, making sure you're having your reads, learning the offense. I think Christian Veyer, I think on the team, probably throws the prettiest ball, in my opinion. Throws the prettiest ball. But you can't turn the ball over 4 or 5 times in a game. You can't throw as many interceptions. You saw that. You saw that in the Notre Dame game. You saw it in the Syracuse game. Those were 2 really outstanding, games that really stood out to themselves and said, hey, this is kind of what we heard about in camp. He turns the ball over. If he's able to correct that, he's got a great chance to win that job, because he's a guy, man. He can throw the ball really well. He just looks like an NFL quarterback, the way the ball comes out of his hands. He's got a really strong arm. He's like your prototypical, quarterback to what you want to see in 2024. Great arm, very agile, able to move in the pocket, able to extend plays, but you can't turn the ball over. That's the biggest thing. Eli Holstein, he's a guy that when you look at him, again, great athlete, 4'5", 40, strong arm, can throw it a country mile down the field, makes reads. But the biggest thing, obviously, too, is that he's a young guy. What can he do? Can he do it on a consistent basis? Can he win that job? How well is he going to learn the offense being such a young guy? When it comes to learning this offense, what are you able to do on a consistent basis? Are you able to be consistent on what you're learning? Being able to jump to that level to where you're a consistent starter across the board and not just on a practice squad facing, again, the number 1 defense in the country, but in a different setting. It's actual game day in front of fans. You've got 50,000 fans there. You got to be able to do it on a consistent basis, especially at your home field and on the road. We'll see what that looks like. And then Julian Duggar, and then obviously too, Ty Diffenbach, a guy who's really big, played wide receiver in high school for a period of time, moved to quarterback. He's a guy who can certainly move, even for a guy at 6'7". I think he can be really good because he's able to be mobile. He's not like Max Brown where he's just got, his feet are just concrete. When you look at him, he's able to move. He's got a really strong arm. There's a lot of options there. So Each one of them have something to work on. Each one of them have strengths, but it's interesting to see what they do. So we'll see. Spring practice and the game should be fun, have a lot to talk about. I know the offense might be a little vanilla, but it's a breath of fresh air. Yeah, again, it'll be vanilla. They'll have a couple plays here and there where they extend it and they create a chunk play where everybody stands up and starts clapping and whatnot. But again, at the end of the day, you're still going to see a completely different offense. You're going to see things, whether it's under center in the shotgun, a lot of spread in terms of being able to spread out the offense. Obviously, tempo, which you're going to see a lot of, going fast, being able to slow it down. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, but more importantly, it's going to be good for the Pitt defense to play against this every day because, one, it's what they're going to be facing during the college season. When Pitt's defense was getting ready for games, I mean, they were so used to, in spring and fall practice, when facing a very slow, majestic, offense to where it was just that 1980s Bill Walsh offense. It's not what you do. It's not what you see in college football anymore. So this is going to help them in practice as well and going to really train them to get ready for, what they're going to face in the ACC, which is great quarterback play. Great quarterback play in the ACC consistently every year. Drake May going in the first round again this year. Obviously, Sam Howell got drafted. Obviously, you had Kenny Pickett from the year before. You had Tyler Van Dyke from where he was at. There's just plenty of guys in the ACC when you look at, Brennan Armstrong, especially doing his time at Virginia. You got a lot of great quarterback play. In the ACC, Sam Hartman, even for that matter, even though, he left to go to Notre Dame, he played well until he faced Pitt in the ACC championship game in 2021. I mean, he threw 4 picks, but we're not going to be, not counting or nothing, but the ACC has been well known for quarterback play. It's that simple. So we'll continue to monitor that. So the spring practice is going to be good. The fans will like what they see. It's going to be something different, but it will be vanilla, especially to that first game against Kent State. It's going to be vanilla. It's going to be vanilla too. We already know it. So don't even, I tell fans right now, don't even be asking what's it going to look like against Kent State. You won't know what the team looks like against Kent State. You'll know what it looks like when they go on the road to Cincinnati, which a game I will be at, by the way. I've been wanting to go to Cincinnati, an old Big East school. So you'll know what Pitt looks like against Cincinnati. And then week 3, when they come back home for the backyard brawl against West Virginia, then you'll really know what the hell we look like. Because you're going to find out what kind of coaching we got, what kind of players we got, and especially, too, in that atmosphere of 70,000-plus fans, it's going to be pumping. So we'll find out what they got. What is going to be the format of the spring game? Is it a draft or first string against second string? They haven't announced that yet, but I think from what they did last year, I think it's just a much smoother game. It's a much more competitive game when it's first string against second string. I think you get a lot more guys on the field. You're able to adjust. You're able to see which guys are performing well. Because spring game, that's important for a lot of the guys, especially on the defensive line, on the offensive line, what are they able to look like, the wide receiver room. I imagine there'll probably be some guys, pulled from the spring game just to make sure they stay healthy. No reason to risk an injury in an exhibition game. But I expect personally, I do really expect it to be first string versus second string. I just think, and personally, I think it's the best way to do it. The draft, it's really, really fun when you're watching on social media. But when it comes to the game, it's just the offensive lines. When you mix up the offensive line like that, there's just no continuity. It's just a lackluster game. There's no blocking. You can't move the football. First team versus second team is the way I would go, and I think they will go this year again. Yager had his number retired tonight. Is it a foregone conclusion? Donald will be the next one for Pitt. I would say so. It's got to be coming soon. Whether he retires soon, when you look at the name of the guys that are up on that list, I mean, you got Aaron Donald coming up. Obviously, they did Larry Fitz, a year or two ago. You have Aaron Donald next. I think I wouldn't be shocked to see LaShawn McCoy's number go up there. I don't think Darrelle Revis's number is retired yet. He's another guy that's on the docket that could get his number retired. But I would say Aaron Donald's 100% next. He is I don't care what the defensive player of the year is, which Myles Garrett should not have won. Micah Parsons is out of his mind for thinking that Myles Garrett was better than TJ Watt. I mean, I just don't understand that at all. There's a lot of debate about that. And I agree with TJ missing the awards for that reason. But at the end of the day, when you look at players, Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the world, especially for his stretch. All pros, Pro Bowls. I mean, the guy is a freak of nature and probably going to go down as the greatest defensive tackle to play in the NFL. He's 100%. And he is a diehard, to people to know, a consistent diehard pick guy. He's always at this, he's at every spring pick game. He's at multiple games per year. Especially too when they have an off week, if something lines up, He donates money every single year. It's millions of dollars every year. You see Tyler Boyd at the Pitt basketball game last night. And, he's a guy that's always back. He's a guy that's always back at Pitt. Hopefully the Steelers sign him. I think he would be a great addition to the wide receiver room for them. Someone who's not selfish, who's actually a really good team player. I think the Steelers lacked that on numerous occasions. Again, I'm not a Steeler fan, but there are numerous very self-centered players on the Steelers, and I think Tyler Boyd would be a really good aspect to bring in someone who's actually a team player. He would be really, really good. I think Allen, I was a big guy on Allen Robinson. He's a team guy. He was still a team guy with the Steelers. I just think his overall production didn't look good. But then again, it's in a Matt Canada offense. I mean, it's a one-read offense. I think this year with Arthur Smith, it's going to be a lot better. But before I sidetrack down the NFL alley where I joined some shows on that, I think Aaron Donald is certainly next. I think he's 100% next, and I think it's well-deserved. They named, obviously, his donation to Pitt. The Performance Center on the south side is named after Aaron Donald. For a lot of you guys that don't know, I can maybe look up some pictures here to try to show you guys what that looks like. I think, and a lot of you guys should be able to remember that in terms of, when that was named. That's a huge deal because of his big donation. Let me see here. I could probably pull this up here real quick just to show you guys if you don't remember. Obviously, with the LA Rams, if I just do this, I think real quick, I'm gonna go here, take this off, share screen, 2 monitors, yes. And then obviously too, what was pretty cool is, the Los Angeles Rams, they shared, they're the ones that shared this. I think this was pretty cool to watch. If I can just get this out of the way, no thanks. So if you remember here, obviously the Aaron Donald Football Performance Center, the LA Rams put this out. Obviously you see Pat Narduzzi there, Pat Gallagher at the time. Aaron Donald Football Performance Center opens at Pitt. Really cool to see this. Obviously the facilities at Pitt are incredible. Obviously you see the man, the myth, the legend right there. Pat Gallagher, who's no longer the chancellor at Pitt right now, obviously retired. What he was able to do is incredible. Obviously too, Aaron's kids right here, cool as hell. They're able to see their dad, get a performance center named after them. And obviously this is a while ago, because you can see the old Pitt colors here. This is all updated. All this stuff is updated. These are all brand new, up to date colors. But that is so cool. His kids got to see him, have a performance center named after him. And obviously too, the dude is jacked. Let's just putting it lightly. All right, so let's go back to this. Adam, any names for the wide receiver coach? Think they should hire someone sooner than later because of spring practice starting. There are some names out there. I'm going to be polite and not name those names. Not saying I got in trouble for tweeting out hires and whatnot last time. But again, there are a couple names. I know for a fact there's a lot of people that put their names in. It's a very big variety of guys who are veterans and very young coaches. In my opinion, what I think Pitt should do is hire a veteran coach and a guy that's been well known as a documented, well-known recruiter and a developer. I understand, the players probably want someone who's relatable to the players. I think there's, a veteran coaches out there that are in their early 40s who can relate. It's a lot like, Taekwon Underwood. But you need a guy, I think, on the offensive staff that has that credential, that has that level of experience with this young of a staff. I think you want a guy that's been around the block. There are a couple names that come to mind in terms of who they're looking at. But I would really like to see a veteran coach, to go with this group. It's great. For me personally, I think we are all calling for a younger staff, which is, I'm very happy to what they did, but you want to see at least one veteran on this group. And I think there are a number of guys around college football that are veterans in terms of the wide receiver position that could fill this role. They're well known for as great recruiters and great developers on the field and guys that players love. And I think there's numerous of guys that I would think that here we are on a Sunday. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a hire in the next couple days, the latest maybe Wednesday. A lot of guys interviewed for this job, and I know they're still going through it. But I expect a hire here pretty soon because we're getting to the point where spring ball is going to be here very quickly, and a coach has to be on campus. So I would expect this week, you'll be seeing early this week, I think Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, potentially we'll have a hire. And we'll certainly break that down here on the channel going forward. Okay, I will say it. Hit the like button. Yes, if you haven't already. If you're on Twitter, go to YouTube, type in Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Subscribe to the channel, because if you like it obviously on Twitter, it's not going to like it here on YouTube. Go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We'll have a giveaway when we get to 1,000 subscribers. Again, please hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm, gets the channel out there. There'll actually be a video posted tonight on the ACC. So if you want to see that when it drops, you got to subscribe. Just all it is one click of the button. Just one click of the button, you subscribe, and there you go. That video will be dropping tonight at 9 p.m. That video will be dropping at 9 p.m. tonight. My thoughts on the reaction of Florida State versus the ACC. But what does that mean for the rest of us in terms of the ACC and buying back and the ESPN option that starts in 2027 that ESPN hasn't renewed yet? That's a lot of questions. Go to that video at 9 o'clock. You'll be updated if you are subscribed. So subscribe to the channel and like the video. Let's see here. But that gets back to spring competition. Again, spring competition is huge. When you look at the defensive side of the football, defensive line, new defensive coach, you've got a number of different guys like Nick James, Sean Fitzsimmons, Elliott Donald, Nakai Johnson moved into the inside. He's a guy that's there. Isaiah Ghost Neal, he's a guy that's there. Don't be shocked to see like a Francis Breu. He's a true freshman this year, a guy that could potentially see some playing time this year as well. There are just numerous guys on the inside to where you look at the depth, what he has, what the new coach Tim Daoust has to work with. I mean, it's a beloved look of talent. You look at it overall, there is a lot to like about that interior defensive line. When you look at the outside, Nate Matlock, you got David Ajubwe, two new guys that came in. Dayon Hayes still here. Nate Temple, Bam Brema. Those two guys are here. You got Sincere Edwards, who will probably start on the outside. He's a 4-star recruit. He'll be on the outside. Plenty of talent to go all the way around. I mean, there's just a lot of guys to work with, but more importantly, talent across the board. And there's more and more guys, again, I'm missing on there that just off the top of my head, that will be just very interesting to watch during that competition. But there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent you have to look after. Then you get the linebacker room. Solomon DeShields, a veteran that we saw there. Obviously, no Kamara, Bengali Kamara this year. Obviously, he went a different route. I think that was a mutual decision on both ends. Just looking for a fresh start. But guess what? You still got Brandon George back. You've got 4-star linebacker Cameron Lindsay. I think you're going to see him a little bit this year, or a good bit this year. My breakout player of the year on defense is Jordan Bass. He'll be a starter at some point in the season if he's not by week 1. When he goes through camp. Obviously, you got Kyle Lewis, Rasheem Biles. Wait till you see Rasheem Biles. I think people aren't talking about him enough. I think people know about Jordan Bass and what he's able to bring to the table. But Rasheem Biles, watch him and what he's able to do. I think he is going to be just an elevated linebacker this year. He's done a great job. Ryan Manilak has done a great job at developing. And I'm going to go into a little bit of a spiel here, but, Ryan Manilak has done a very good job at recruiting that linebacker room. You look at what this linebacker room 3 or 4 years ago, Servassier Dennis was coming in. Everyone, was complaining because he was a 2-star recruit, ends up being our best linebacker for the next, 3 years. The guy was an absolute stud. Goes on to get drafted and now plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with, Kalijah Cansey. I think that Ryan Manilak has rebuilt that room. It's a young room. Braylon Lovelace, when you look at him, he's another guy who played a lot last year as a true freshman. He will play a lot this year. Kyle Lewis is also there. When you look at this room, I think it's good. You look at Jeremiah Marcelin, Cam Lindsay. Those two guys are coming in this year. David Bruton coming in from the New Jersey area. It's a room that's been restocked. It's a room that's been rebuilt. And I think for where this room was, there's got to be a lot of credit, and I see some guys in some accounts, and again, it's only Twitter, it's not real life, but there are some Twitter people out there that just or I guess on X I should say, that just give Ryan Manilak a lot of crap. I think Manilak has done a hell of a job. You look at that room. It's just, again, look at the names I've just given you. I mean, just talent. And there's only 3 starters. Okay, they're going to rotate guys in, so you'll really have 6 guys there. You'll have 6 guys playing. There'll be a rotation that goes through because you want guys that are fresh, especially for how much Pitt pressures. But overall, when you look at it, I mean, it's a rebuilt room with a lot of talent. I don't know where the Ryan Manilak dislike has come from. I've seen accounts out there that say, Pitt should have 6'7", 6'8" linebackers. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I've never seen a 6'7" or 6'8" linebacker. I mean, they're usually between the 5'11" to 6'2", 6'3". I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at. But that's what I expect, and I think he's done a tremendous job when you look at that room. And I think the young guys coming in are going to be even better. So give that guy a lot of flowers, man. He does a good job. Let's see here. Okay, I will say hit the like button again. Thank you for that. Jasir Whittington. Yes, of course. Obviously. Thank you, Mark. Jasir Whittington, the 4-star defensive tackle. He's going to get a lot of looks this year. I think he's just a perfect fit. When you look at the Pat Narduzzi defense and the defensive line, people talked about, and there were numerous people, when you look at that line overall, he is a guy that they talked about was short in stature. He's a 4-star recruit, but some guys didn't want to take a shot on him because they thought he was undersized. Guess what? We'll take him because guess what? Those undersized guys, those 4-star guys that come here, they go to the NFL. And then Kalijah Kancey, he was a 3-star recruit, goes on to be a first-round draft pick. Jalen Twyman was another guy. You look at him when he was able to produce it in terms of interior. Those 2 guys were absolutely freaks of nature. I think Sean Fitzsimmons is going to be that next guy, along with Jasir Whittington and Francis Breu. Those guys are going to be studs. But then you still had Rashad Weaver on the outside. He was a 2-star recruit. Patrick Jones, 2-star recruit. Those 2 guys. Rashad Weaver goes to the Tennessee Titans. Patrick Jones goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Both guys are starters. I mean, that's they were all ACC, all Americans. I mean, that's just production. They know what they're looking for. And I think Jasir Whittington made the right move. He's a guy who's going to build that relationship with Tim Daoust. Tim Daoust is going to build a relationship with him. And it's going to be a good relationship, in my opinion. I think he's going to do a hell of a job here. That's just my opinion. I just think when you look at that D-line room overall, it's incredible when you look at it, how well they've done in terms of just it's never rebuilding, it's reloading. That's the difference at Pitt from a number of schools. You look at different positions at Pitt, it'll be reloading. But when you look at the defensive line and now the linebacker room, it's now reloading. You are now reloading in those 2 areas, along with the defensive backs, Shadarian Harrison, Javon McIntyre, Donovan McMillan, P.J. O'Brien, Rylan Gandy, Tatum Lynham comes in from Nebraska, playing cornerback. He's going to probably be a day 1 starter. Tamarian Crumpley, he's a guy that's back there. Rashad Battle. I mean, there's just names across the board, but you're just no longer rebuilding. You're just reloading. You just got guys back there that can play right away. So I'm excited to see what those rooms do, and especially, too, with the talent level that they have. But thank you, Mark, for Jasir Whittington. I mean, the guy is an absolute stud. He fits what Pitt wants to do. I expect him to put up big numbers in the very near future because he is that good of an athlete. I think people are nuts to consider him an undersized guy, and maybe he can't play at this certain level. Pitt has proven that wrong, and that's why he came to Pitt. He fits well in Pitt's system, and if he plays the way he looks and plays like he did in high school, he will be another guy. It's a day 1 or day 2 pick. It's that simple. In 3 or 4 years, it's exactly what it looks like. Mark, to the list of talent coming. Yeah, it's exactly, Mark. And again, thank you for that name. Of course, the first guy, Jasir Whittington, was the first signee of the 2024 class too. Funny how I forget that. But overall, the competition across the board. I mean, even defensive backs, as I just said, you got Javon McIntyre, Shadarian Harrison, who we didn't even get to see last year. He's that good. I can't wait till you guys see him. He's a really good athlete. Shadarian Harrison. Then you got P.J. O'Brien, Donovan McMillan. Donovan McMillan has built a hell of a resume off of 1 year, over 100 tackles last year. A guy that comes down and plays in the box, loves to help stuff the run. I think he's very physical. Could play linebacker if he really wanted to, but I think he just fits so well at strong safety that he's just a dynamite athlete to where he can play both. But I think he's really good at strong safety. But also, too, Tatum Lynham, cornerback out of Nebraska. If you watched his film, he looks really, really good. Maybe I can pull up his tape here, actually show you guys some stuff here. Tatum Lynham, just a really good overall. Let me see here. Yeah, Taman Lynam. I'm sorry, Taman Lynam. Don't know why I was getting that wrong. Let me see here if I can find it. There's usually tape here somewhere. Do. Let's see here. Thought I had it on here somewhere. I'll have to look at that for that next time, and I'll show you guys next time. But he's another guy. When you look at Taman Lynam, he's going to be really good. To Marion Crumpley, Rylan Gandy, those two guys are there. Overall, Rashad Battle's still here. You just look at the depth across the board and the amount of talent that's currently there at Pitt. It's what you need for competition. That's what you want for competition. That's why I really do see Cruz. Oh, thank you for the name right there. Cruz Brookins, another guy, true freshman that played really well last year, came in late. I think he's going to do a tremendous job. Didn't burn his red shirt last year. He'll be a guy that plays really well at the safety position, can play, even especially too when we go to different packages, especially to the Delta package. I think he's a guy that can play quite a bit. He's very physical. Out of Steel Valley, very good player. Along with the O-line, do you think they will get a cornerback in the portal as well? I mean, they already did get one. Taman Lynam. I don't think they'll get any more. I think that's all they need. I think they got enough guys back there. When you look at the 4 or 5 guys, I mean, Taman, Rashad Battle, then you got Rylan Gandy, Tamarian Crumpley. There are some other guys back there. I think they got them this past year too. So there's like five or 6 guys. I think after spring practice, they'll judge. I think when we look at spring practice and we look at the tape, I can give you more of an answer. But as of right now, I think they're fine. I think with that ad they had with Taman, I think they're going to be fine. And I've seen him in person. Holy hell. He's a big dude. Big dude playing corner. Reminds me a lot of Jason Pinnock. Maybe just a little bit faster. That's it. I mean, just overall, very big specimen. I mean, just dude, the guy's built. I mean, he looks like an NFL corner. It's ridiculous. But yeah, thank you for that too. Cruz Brookins, man, he did really good at the end of the year. I mean, he came in, he was physical, he knew his assignment. And, Pat Narduzzi's defense isn't easy, especially on the safeties. I mean, you're one-on-one. It's hard to find guys that can play at that type of level for a certain period of time in a Pat Narduzzi defense. You go look at the safeties over a long period of time. I think you look at it, DeMar Hamlin, there were numerous guys that were back there. I think when you look at that defense and the scheme overall, you've got to be smart back there. And Pitt's been lucky where just consistently year after year after year, they've had guys. And obviously I'm drawing a blank on the other safety who was here, Hallett. Hallett was incredible here. I mean, holy hell. I mean, the guy was here for how long and just was dynamite. I'd love to have him back another year just because he just knows the defense so well. And his game in the ACC championship game with multiple interceptions, just really good overall for that kid. I was happy to see it. But overall, Pitt has done a good job of recruiting safeties, but also too, Corey Sanders has done a hell of a job developing them. Same thing with Archie Collins. I don't think that's talked about enough. And Pitt has held off other teams that have kept, that have tried to get Archie Collins and Corey Sanders. Pitt has answered the bell and made sure they gotten raises to where they're comfortable and they stay here. That's what you got to do in college football, especially now in today's climate. So I think they've done a really good job with that. And I think Archie Collins and Corey Sanders don't get their dues sometimes. I think that's how good they are. I think they're incredible recruiters, but even better developers. I mean, the guys just teach the game the right way. And just look at Pat Narduzzi, just loves it. I mean, exactly how he wants it. So kudos to those guys. All right. And we'll take maybe a couple more questions here. We're coming up on the hour mark. Again, if you have not done so already, subscribe to the channel down below on Twitter. Go to YouTube, Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. It certainly helps out the algorithm and spreading this out. Love to hear your guys' comments on what we do. Let me see here. Russ Bayer, obviously, if you guys know, $500 shopping spree at Colonial Beer for the 1,000th giveaway. Ooh, that's actually interesting. I'll have to reach out to Colonial Beer. I don't know. That would be something. $500 worth of alcohol, though. Good Lord Almighty, that might fill up your whole car. I'll tell you what, you might be good for a couple months. You might have to have some parties in there, Russ. My man, though. Hail to Pitt. Obviously, if you guys don't know Russ Bayer, that's Ryan Bayer's dad. Obviously, great. Obviously, Russ and Michelle, they're the best of the best. Obviously, great family overall. So, again, I think it's gonna be very interesting. But that is a very good suggestion, Russ. As we get closer to 1,000, we're gonna have some really good, interesting things. I think the giveaway, I might have to do more than one. I think because there's a number of you that are just so loyal that have listened to the show and watched the show. I maybe do maybe like 3 or 4 on terms on 1,000 giveaways. Maybe it's a signed football, some Pitt gear, something like that. Obviously, too, maybe something with Colonial beer for the 1,000th giveaway. But that's something to watch. Of course, Russ Bayer, you're the man as always. Do you think Nate Temple will go back into the portal again? I feel like he's going to get passed over. He wasn't that good. I don't expect Nate to go back in the portal. I really don't, unless they push him back in there. But for him to come back while he was already in there, I don't see him leaving. When it comes to the defensive line, it's solidified. I just want to watch what happens to the freshmen. That's the question I have at this point, that we're very much tied to Charlie Partridge. I can guarantee you Charlie Partridge has probably already talked to them and said, hey, staying at Pitt is where you're best suited at. Charlie is that type of guy. I know he's probably talked to all the guys. He's just a diehard Pitt guy. He talks about system. He talks about family, why Pitt is what it is, and why it's important for defensive linemen to stay there, because it's just a factory for NFL draft picks. But there are a couple guys on my mind that I watch and monitor consistently that could potentially be in the portal. And we'll continue to watch that. But I think Charlie Partridge has done a good job of settling that room down to say, hey, look who's here. He's a good coach, good recruiter. He'll develop you. And again, he's already proven to where he's developed a couple guys in the National Football League, especially at Syracuse. He's able to do it at Syracuse. You can do it anywhere, especially too with the guys he's had at ECU. They said he's a player's coach, and the guys loved him. It was hard to see him leave. So I think Pitt fans were excited about a guy like that, in 2017 and 2015 because of his resume. So we'll continue to monitor that. Well, guys, as always, as we go on brand here, thank you enough. I can't thank you guys enough for watching the show. Again, subscribe to the channel down below. Like the video. Again, the show is nothing without you. You guys produce and make sure the show is incredible. Obviously, if you have not subscribed yet, I have a video dropping and a show dropping at 9 p.m. tonight. If you want to see that, subscribe to the channel. And it's, again, subscribing is for free. There's nothing attached to it. Subscribe. It helps with the algorithm, especially liking the video. The show is great because of you guys. And we are getting closer and closer and closer to spring practice. Football is just around the corner, and we're almost back. But as always, guys, I'm appreciative of everything that you guys do, what you guys do, and how you guys do it. Again, beyond thankful. As always and forever, hail to Pitt. I'll see you guys next time.